Okay, so this lesson is kind of a continuation from the last one on overtime. This time we're just specifically looking at double time. So as was said in the last lesson, double time, when we look at double time, you got to think, what does double mean to you? So double is just meaning that we're going to take our hourly wage and we're going to multiply it by 2. So whenever you're asked to find overtime and it's at a rate of double time, then you're taking your hourly wage and you're timesing it by 2 for any of the hours to find your overtime rate. So Sean works for Mac's Corner Store. He works 40 hours a week. He receives double pay for the extra hours that he works over and above the 40 hours. His hourly wage normally is $11.25, and we need to calculate his gross pay for each week. So we've got 2 weeks to work with here. So week 1, he works 48 hours. Well, 48 hours, well, we know he works a regular week of 40 hours. So during his regular 40 hours, he is making $11.25. So if we go through that process, we can say 40 times $11.25. He is making, before the overtime, he's making $450. His hourly wage, he's got 8 hours that he is going to work overtime at an hourly wage of, it's going to take his hourly wage, and because it's double time, we're going to times it by 2. So in this case, you're going to take the 8 times the 11.25 times the 2, and find out that he makes an extra $180. So if I add both of those together, his gross pay is going to work out to $630. So in week 2, he's working 53 hours. Same thing. He worked 40 hours. He went above 40 hours. So we know the first 40 hours, he is making $11.25 an hour. So it means same thing as above. He made $450 just working those first 40 hours. What does he have left? Well, 53, subtract the 40. He's got 13 hours of overtime. And because it's double time, he's taking the $11.25 and timesing it by 2, because he's doubling his hourly rate when he works any of his overtime hours. And in this case, he is making $292.50. So if we take that plus his regular 40 hours, he grosses $742.50. So double time and time and a half are very similar to one another in terms of calculations and figuring it out. So you have to be very cautious of what the question is asked for and be aware of what overtime rate is being addressed, whether it be time and a half or whether it be double time. Paige works for Mac's Corner Store. She has an hourly salary of $15.55 per hour, and that's any hours over 40 in a week. She's paid double time. So double time, she's timesing her hourly rate by 2. This week, she works 43 hours. Or we have to determine what her gross pay is. Well, since she worked over 40 hours, we know those first 40 hours, she's getting paid $15.55. So that 40 times $15.55 is working out to $622. Now, she worked extra hours over the 40. She worked 3 extra hours at double time, meaning she's going to take her hourly wage and she's going to multiply it by 2. So in this case, she's going to take 3 hours times the $15.55 times the 2 because of double time, and she is making $93.30 just for those 3 hours of work. So now to find out what her gross pay is, we're going to add both her regular hours with her overtime pay, and we're going to find out that she made $715.30. So just like we've seen questions like this, okay, that was her gross, but now we're going to include the deductions in here. So she's looking at 23% basic deductions that come off of her gross pay. And she also has a deduction of $5.50 for social club. So let's figure out the 23% piece first. Let's get it to an actual dollar figure so that we can subtract it from the gross pay. So in this instance, because it's 23%, divide it by 100, and we're going to get 0.23 times 100, or times, sorry, not 100. We've already dealt with that. Times her gross pay, which is $715.30. So we take that times 0.23. Her deductions of all of those basic ones in terms of money are $164.52. Let's add to that the $5.50 in a social fund that she gets deducted from. And we find out that she has a total deductions of $170.02. So again, that's deductions. So her net pay, we're asked to find net pay. So net pay is simply taking her gross, subtracting her deductions. So in this case, her gross being $715.30, subtract her deductions of $170.02, and we will find out that she makes $545.28. So that is what she is actually taking home. That's what's getting deposited into her account, or that's what her check is going to be. Okay, last question. At Mac's Corner Store, Tristan earns $14.50 an hour, and his overtime rate is double time. His regular work week is 40 hours, and if he earned $928 in 1 week, we want to know how much did he earn at regular pay. So our biggest thing again, because we don't know if he's worked overtime or not, but our first thing then is at regular pay. Regular pay would mean he would be working his 40 hours at his regular rate of $14.50. Let's see if this amount comes under the 928, because if it does, then we know that he's definitely worked that as regular, and then he may have some extra overtime. So if I take the 40 times the $14.50, we get $580. So that is his gross in regular, just regular pay. So to me, he's worked 40 hours and this is all he's getting, but look at what he earned in 1 week. He earned a lot of money over and above the 580 when we think about it, right? So his overtime earnings, so how much money extra over and above his regular pay? Well, if we take the 980, subtract the 580, we are going to find out that he made an extra $400 in overtime. That's a lot of money. So this is overtime earnings. Now we want to know how many hours of overtime did he work? Well, if we think about overtime, overtime is simply looking at his overtime, taking an hourly wage, and then timesing it by how many hours. So if we think about this, we know he worked 400 hours, or he made $400, sorry. His hourly wage, well, his hourly wage, we take the $14.50 and we're doing double time to it. So his hourly wage is $14.50 times 2, which in that case, that works out to $29. So every hour overtime is worth $29 to him. And we times it by how many hours, because we don't know how many hours that is. Well, if we're taking the 29, timesing it to these hours, the opposite of timesing is dividing. So we're going to divide both sides by 29 in this case. So if I take the 400 divided by 29, I'm finding out that he's working roughly 13.79 hours. So not quite a full 14 hours that he might have been working. Oh, sorry, I'm off my page. He might have worked like 13 3/4 of an hour type of thing, right? That seems kind of funny that it came out that way, but I'm just going to do a double check here to make sure everything else along the way. Oh, because this, my bad, this was 928. So this here should be 928. So 928 subtract 580 gives me 348. How quickly a person can make quick little error, hey? Okay, so basically take 348 divided by 29. That's better. He is actually working 12 hours. That's what he's doing in order. He's working 12 overtime hours to make that extra $348 in overtime money. And that is it for today. You've got overtime when we're looking at just strictly double time. Now you can work on your practice.